Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar where I will be covering some cool new tools or some cool old tools in Microsoft Outlook. First off, let me introduce myself. My name is Glenn Wilson, and I am a cloud system specialist at Optistar Technology Consultants. Optistar is a managed service provider specializing in offering customized business solutions to our clients. This is the first of our planned series of webinars aimed at helping you get the most out of your IT tools and introducing you to some other tools you may not even know you have. After this webinar ends, if you believe Optistar can help you with your IT needs, feel free to visit our website at optistartech.com. Or for more information, you can call us at 888-782-7003. Now let's get started. So email, as we know it, has been around in one form or another since 1965. At first, it was thought that email would lead to the demise of the written word, and later, as we were inundated with so much of the stuff, it was believed that it would lead to the demise of all of us. Now, I love reading old articles that predict the coming end for email, especially when they were written 10 years ago and we're still using it today. And maybe one of these days those articles may be right, but for now, I'm still drowning in the stuff. And if you're like me, and email is consuming a large and sometimes unhealthy amount of your day as well, then I'm hoping that today I can help make things a little easier for you by giving you some cool tools to get the most out of Microsoft Outlook, which is the application used by most businesses to send and receive email today. Now, some of these you may already know of, and you may even use regularly, and others may be brand new to you. But my chosen presentation method today will be to introduce each cool tool to you, and then I'm going to play you a demo of the tool so that you can see it in action. So don't be surprised if I'm not moving my lips around during the demonstrations. I have 8 tools in all to show you today, and I may even throw in a bonus tool at the end. So let's get to it. The first cool tool I want to cover is Quick Parts. Now, as an IT guy, I am famous for saying that while I may know how to install and manage this stuff, I am not always the best when it comes to using it. So when I was working with a law firm in the recent past, and one of the paralegals in that office showed me this tool, Quick Parts, I was blown away by how much easier it seemed to make her job. I was more excited than she was. Essentially, if you remember those old rubber stamps that people would use to repeatedly press images, like librarians stamping a book with a due date or a stamp that pressed received and the date on it, then QuickParts is Outlook's email stamp, where you can repeatedly stamp the same message over and over again. It can come in handy whether you're sending the same message 50 times a day or just 3 or 4 times a year. Just having a quick and available copy at all times can be an awesome time saver. Let's watch a demo. Okay, so here you can see that I've started my usual standard response to a message that I have to type sometimes over and over again, sometimes maybe only a couple of times a year. It really doesn't matter. But as you can see, I've typed it out. Hello, thanks for asking about the thing I get asked about all day long. And I've typed the entire message out. And just before I click send, though, I'm going to switch over here to this insert button. Now I want to go to insert for a reason because it's going to allow me to bring up Quick Parts. So Quick Parts is usually located on this toolbar, the insert toolbar right next to text box. Now what I need to do here is highlight the text that I want to rubber stamp, as it were. In this case, this is the message that I type over and over again. So I'm going to highlight that message. I'm going to come up to Quick Parts and I'm going to say save this selection to the Quick Part gallery. It's this little nub right down here at the bottom. Now, I need to give a name to this since I've already referred to it as my usual and standard response. That's what I'm going to call this one. As for gallery, we're going to leave it in Quick Parts. We're not going to discuss any of the other gallery options on here today, but just know there are some. For category, now I'm going to leave mine in my general category, but just so you understand the concept of categories, you can create different categories which will help when it comes to differentiating between your many quick parts you might end up having. If you're like me and you don't have quite so many, you may get away with just using the general category. But as you can see, I've created categories for social media, test parts, such and such. So in this case, though, I'm going to stick with just general. For description, this is where you would take the opportunity to describe what this particular one is about, but it's something that's only important to you. So you could say, this is my usual and standard response for the United States. This is my usual and standard response for Canada or for Mexico or for Europe. An idea. So it gives you an idea of which this particular usual and standard response is for. As for the last two options on here, we're going to leave ours in the default settings for now, save in the normal email dot, and options insert content only. But as far as options know, just know there's three. You can insert its own paragraph or insert its own page. I'm not going to cover that today, but I will say insert content only. Now, when I click OK, this text has been rubber stamped, as it were. And in the future, let's see how I would use it. So let me delete that message. Now I have my new message. It's time for me to type it again. Now, at this point, I would come up to Quick Parts, click here, and you can see I have under General, my category, Usual and Standard Response. I click and it rubber stamps it right in there for me, so I'm ready now to click Send. Of course, I may want to also add in my social media link. So I'm going to come here, add that on as well. And now I'm ready to click send. So you can see quick parts can come in handy very quickly if you're the kind of person who has to type a usual and standard response to something over and over and over again, like the paralegals I mentioned earlier. Let's move on to the next one. So cool tool number 2 is Outlook's delay delivery feature. Now, have you ever known exactly what you wanted to write in an email, but at the wrong time to write it? This tool can help with that situation, and it can come in handy when you know exactly what you want to say to a client or a potential new client, but you also know that they get tons of email and you don't want to send it to them until you know they'll be at their desk to read it. Or maybe you've read one of those mini articles on the interwebs about when is the best time to send email, and you want your mail to correspond to those times. Maybe you want to wish someone a happy birthday, but you're thinking of it today when you got the 1 week ahead alert, but you don't want to send it until their actual birthday. Whatever your reasons may be, Outlook has a built-in tool for accomplishing this goal. So let's take a look at how to use it. So for our demo, let's use our usual and standard response. Let's say that Stanley needs to send this message out, but he needs it to be delayed. We don't want this message to go out until the end of August, usually around noon, because we know that's when the person who's receiving this message tends to be at their desk, and we know we can get them to read it. So after you have your message prepared and you're ready to click send, before you click send, this time we're going to come up here to the options menu. So when we click on options, we're going to get several of them across the top here, but the one we're interested in looks like a little outbox and it says delay delivery. When we click on that one, we're going to bring up this window. Under here where it says delivery options, you can check the box that says do not deliver before, choose the date, in our case the end of August, August 31st, and we'll say noon because we know that's when this person's usually at their desk and we have our best chance of reaching them. We will click close. The message is now set on a delivery delay and I will click send. What will happen is that message will not send. Instead, that message is going to set in our outbox. Now here I have the ability to edit the message, delete the message, make any changes that I want to the message up until that message is actually sent. Outlook will not complete delivery on this message until August 31st at noon. So that is how you can use delayed delivery to make sure that you get everything you want to say now in the email, but it doesn't get sent until you're ready to send it. Let's move on to cool tip number 3. So I'm sure that you, unlike myself, have never been added to an email chain that you care nothing about, right? You know what I mean, that silly email someone sent to the entire company and then someone else replied all, and now everyone is replying all. Or maybe it's a joke email that keeps getting added to, or even an email you needed to be involved with at first, but the replies have gone beyond your contributions at this point, but they just keep replying and filling up your inbox. Now, first of all, they should be using Microsoft Teams for that stuff, not Outlook, but we're only talking about Outlook today. Teams is for another day. So, how do you get yourself out of this waste of your time and your inbox? Well, you ignore the conversation. That's how. And I'm going to show you exactly how you could do that.
Okay, for example, I have this utterly fascinating conversation going on between me and Verizon and a bunch of other people. Not for reals, but for our demonstration purposes. Let's look at this one. So I've chosen this Verizon email. Up at the top under the home menu in the delete menu boxes here, there's an option called ignore in the top. I'm going to click this button. When I do, I'm going to get this pop-up that's going to say the selected conversation and all future messages will be moved to the deleted items folder. Ignore. We're talking instantaneous there, right? It just moves it right into your deleted items. And there it is. Now let's say that later the need comes up that I do actually need to get back involved in this, or somebody comes to me and says, did you know that this was happening? You need to be paying attention. Well, you can always come back here into deleted items, find the original message. You see ignore is still selected up here in that same box. I'll click it again, and this time it's going to say stop ignoring conversation. Yes. And just as instantaneous, the conversation is moved right back up into my inbox so that I can resume whatever important things these are that people feel I need to be involved in. And there you go, ignoring your email.
So, cool tip number 4. As long as Outlook has been around, the follow up option seems to have been there, just sitting there, staring you in the face, practically daring you to use it. I'm actually surprised that so few of us use this tool when you consider how often it might actually be of use to us. Checking the option to follow up and setting a date to remind you to do so is useful and probably the way this is used the most today. But my favorite capability of the follow up tool is its ability to set a reminder for the email recipient as well, especially if you know the person you need this response from is one of those people who drags their feet responding to email messages, and you people know who you are. Let's take a real quick look at just how this tool works.
Okay, so let's have a closer look at the follow-up tool. So here I am with our standard email that I have prepared for my testing purposes. In the screen here up at the top menu in the message menu, over to the right is our little flag friend. This is the follow-up option. We're probably more familiar with it in a sense of assigning stuff to ourselves if we've used it at all. When I click on the follow-up, I get a pull-down menu in which I can set reminders for myself to remind me today to follow up on this, to remind me tomorrow, this week, next week, to set no date, or for custom dates. Custom date's the one I want to show you guys today because when you go into custom, flag for me is checked and I can choose whatever start date I wish, whatever due date I wish, and I can set to turn on a reminder for any particular day to remind me to have it done by this day at this time so that I keep getting these reminders. Now, I can also check this box flag for recipients. This is what I mentioned you would use if you wanted to send the recipient, also have them set up with a message, a reminder to keep reminding them to follow up on this email. You have other status options that you can assign for them. You can do for your information, for instance, read, things like that. But for our purposes today, we're talking about follow-up. This allows you to make sure that the person who you're sending the message to gets an automatic message or an automatic alert set up to remind them that they need to respond back to you on it. Very useful. I hope this is one of those cool tools. Let's move on to our next one.
So, number 5 is dictation. Now, some of us like to think of ourselves as better speakers than writers. Well, the next cool tool is dictation, which will allow you to prove it. Dictation lets you use speech to text to author content in Outlook. It works in other Office applications as well, such as Word and PowerPoint, using your microphone. It's a quick, easy way to draft emails, send replies, and capture the tone you're going for. Using the dictation button in Outlook will allow you to create your entire message out loud, even adding punctuation. Plus, you can make edits with your keyboard without turning off the mic and having to start over. This feature is even available in the Outlook mobile app for vocal composition on the go. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate the mobile experience today, but let's look at the desktop experience in action. And please be aware that this particular feature is not exactly faultless. I've worked with it a lot, and I've had some mixed results at times, and I've had some spectacular results at times. So your mileage may vary. I guess you could say this feature works. I guess you could say that 60% of the time, this feature works every time.
Okay, so let's take a look at this cool dictation tool. We'll begin with a blank message. I've just started a new message. We are in the message toolbar, which is the default toolbar for new messages. So as soon as you start one, this is what you should see. Somewhere on your toolbar, you'll see this option with a microphone on it. There is a drop-down menu on here, but that drop-down menu is mainly for you to choose the language that you're wishing to speak into the microphone. By default, it's going to pull whatever language you have set inside of Windows. So this should already be set for you, which means that normally all you're going to need to do is click on the microphone to begin dictation. I'm going to dictate a very simple message here, nothing too complicated, and then we'll talk about it a little more afterwards. So here we go into dictation mode. Subject is subject. Hello, Joe, comma, new line, new line. Joe, I was hoping to speak with you today about dictation. If you get a chance to write me back, please do so, period. New line, new line. Thanks a lot, comma. There we go. It's a pretty basic, simple message. Now, Microsoft has an entire page dedicated to all the different punctuation and different things that you can add to this. Sometimes those things work, sometimes they don't. I found I've had some luck where something worked and then 5 seconds later it didn't work. But I still think it's a pretty cool tool and it can come in handy, be very helpful when you're writing simple messages. So also very helpful on the mobile version, which again, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate for you today, but if you do have Outlook running on your mobile phone, you might find this pretty helpful. Let's move on to our next tool.
All right, so now you've heard the old saying that this meeting should have been an email before, right? Well, I'm going to show you how to make an email directly into a meeting using a clever tool already built right into Outlook. All you need is an email and a mouse to make it happen. Now, this tool will create a meeting that contains everyone who's already on the email chain and with the entire contents of the email included in the meeting notes to make it easier for your attendees to know what the meeting is about. Let's see it in action right now.
Okay guys, let's have a look at this create a meeting tool in action. So I've selected an email here that I wish to make a meeting from. I want to invite everybody on the chain to the meeting, and I want to make sure that everybody knows what the meeting is about and what they should have to be prepared for the meeting. Now, instead of starting with a whole brand new meeting appointment, what we're going to do is use this cool feature that Microsoft already built into Outlook. Right up here at the top, there's an option that says meeting. Now, if I click that, with that highlighted, of course, it's going to create a meeting right from it, including the email. Now, this can also be done if you're already inside of the email by having the message itself open, only the button you're going to find is a little smaller, more abbreviated look to it than normal, but you'll see it says reply with meeting. When you click that, it's going to open up, set yourself up a meeting. Now, the meeting's title is going to come directly from the email subject, so whatever the subject line is. Now, if your subject line happens to be a little messy, you can always feel free to click in here, clean it up. The required attendees are going to be everybody in the to field. You can feel free to adjust that. You can either move somebody to optional or you can add new people if you want to add them in. That's fine because they're going to be able to know what the meeting's about even if they haven't originally been on the email chain because the email itself is at the bottom, everything that was in it. Now, optional people, you can add people, but it will also be people who are in the CC field. So anyone who is CC'd is considered optional for the meeting. They don't necessarily have to be there. If you don't like that, though, you can always grab those people, add them to required to make sure that everybody knows I need you here. Now you'll set your start date and time for your meeting. We'll pick August 4th here, why not? And then your location. Now if you have your meetings in conference rooms, so be it. You can pick your conference room here either from your location tab if you're set up for that, or just type in the name so everybody knows where to go. If you want to make this a Teams meeting now, however, and you do actually use Microsoft Teams, that's fairly easy to do too, because there's a button right here that says Teams Meeting. If you have Teams installed and properly configured, you click that button and it will turn this into a Teams meeting. We'll fill in the location. Now you have all of your required attendees, your date, your time, your location. Everybody has the reference materials to know what to go about, everything you need to make a meeting successful. You simply click send and your meeting is done. Now, let's move on and see our next cool tool.
Next up, an email inbox can be a very messy thing, filled with outdated messages, unread emails, meeting invites you forgot to attend or that you just never saw because they were buried amongst all the silliness. By default, Outlook uses conversation threading to try and keep all the emails in a chain in one handy spot with the most recent at the top. But maybe you've turned that off. Maybe you didn't like that setting and you turned off the default because you like to see every message in order of receiving it. Or maybe a chain has gotten so large that you're tired of seeing any part of it other than the last reply. Outlook has a cleanup tool that few people take advantage of, which can help you to get some control over this feisty inbox. Let's take a look at how that works.
Okay, so an example. Here is an email chain between myself and Stanley. We've been going on and on and on with each other about where we should go for lunch. Now, you may have something similar like this. It may involve something more important than lunch, and it may not. Either way, this particular thing is just clogging up my inbox and blocking things that matter to me. So I can simply begin with the first conversation, just the most recent one here, and just select it. Now, when I select this conversation, I can come up here to the top of the screen. In the home menu, there's an option called Cleanup right here. Now, if I choose to clean up conversation, it's only going to clean up this conversation, this particular conversation here and all of its related underlings. If I choose clean up folder, it's going to choose my inbox, and it's going to go through and find everything in my inbox that needs this same service done to it. And then lastly, clean up folder and subfolders is everything in my inbox and any subfolders I might have in my inbox. I don't have any, but if I did, I would show you that example as well. I'm going to go with just clean up conversation. I want to clean up this particular lunch conversation. It's getting long and it's getting to be too much to handle. I'll get a pop-up that's going to say all redundant messages will be moved to the deleted items folder, and that is exactly where they will go. There they are. That has cleared them out of my way. All the junk is gone. I have the last message, and then I have the full chain still available to me. I just don't have every single reply filling in my inbox anymore. That'll help you to keep that clean, and if you use that feature to do it for all folder, it may even make things manageable. Let's move on to the next cool tool.
So tool number 8. The last cool tool is one that I like to say I'm surprised and also not too surprised that people don't really use. In the past, when I've enabled it for people, they would inevitably sing its praises to me about how much easier it made their lives, or they would stop me every time I walked by their desks to ask me to turn it back off again. Personally, I'm not sure how I would manage without this simple little add-on. By adding the calendar to your main Outlook mail window, you can see a view of the month ahead by dates. And you can see a quick 5-day abbreviated version of your schedule to help you plan your next meeting or event. The next time someone on the phone asks you what your schedule looks like tomorrow, you can see it in a glance here. And turning it on is a snap. Likewise, if you're in that second group that has grown to hate this add-on, well, then turning it back off again is just as easy.
Okay, so let's discuss this to-do bar. Now, the easiest way to get onto your main screen here to show that to-do bar is to go up here to the top and to change to the view menu. And when you change to the view menu, you're going to get some of these options up here. And one of these options says to-do bar. Now, I recommend turning on the calendar to-do bar. Now, the others can be useful, but I can find that they start to clog things up a bit. I get the most benefit from the calendar to-do bar. And what you get here is an actual working calendar, so you can see where we are and where we're going. So if you just need a quick view of the coming year or the coming month to see what day is September 14th, oh yeah, it's a Tuesday. You can do it by simply moving with these two little buttons. And down below here, you can see that, well, Stanley has nothing else scheduled today, but tomorrow he's got a busy day. Lunch, meeting with Champ, Thursday, chasing a cat, lunch, and then Friday and Monday, we've got lunch scheduled. So it's busy a couple of days there. Now, if somebody were to ask me if I'm available Friday afternoon, well, I can easily look here rather than have to come back over and click on my Outlook calendar to go back and look at it. By adding this to-do bar, I can see everything that's coming to me as quickly as I can. Now, it's an abbreviated schedule, mind you, but at least gives you some idea of where you're going to be in the next couple of days when somebody asks you. I find this to be pretty useful. There are a lot of people I've found, they get very happy when I turn this on for them. There's also a lot of people who are like, this is in my way. I just want more space to read my email. In which case, I always tell them, come to view, go to to-do bar, and you can turn it back off again as well. Let's move on to the bonus tool.
Bonus tool. For a bonus tool, I want to recommend the focused inbox. Now, in my years in IT, I don't think I've ever come across anything as perfectly divisive as this tool. People either love it, like they love their pets and their kids, or they hate it, like a Hatfield hates a McCoy. There is seldom any wiggle room in the debate. If you try to Google the term focused inbox right now, one of the first items you will see in the autofill search area is how to turn off. So I get it. That's why it's just a bonus tool today. It's also one of the only things I'm mentioning here that only works with Microsoft 365 accounts. So this may not be available to you if you're not currently using a Microsoft 365 hosted email account. Now, at first, I will say that I too saw the reason for this hatred. Me and the focused inbox, we did not see eye to eye when we were first introduced. But over the years, we've grown into being good friends, and I have learned to appreciate its auto magic ability to filter the quote, needs my immediate attention, unquote, messages from the quote, not right now, unquote, messages in my inbox. Now, I'm not talking about junk mail. That's a different folder altogether. No, the focused inbox takes email you may actually want to read, but that you don't need to immediately act on, and just sort of slides it out of your way. Temporarily, of course, nothing is deleted from your inbox. Just slid out of the way, like papers to the side on your desk. Let me show you how to turn it on and also how to turn it off if that's what you prefer.
So first of all, here in Stanley's case, the focused inbox is already turned on, and you can tell because in the main window here, main email window, you see focused and you see other. So focused is the email that has been determined to be important enough that I should be paying attention to right now. Other contains messages that are important to me, but it may not be important to me right now. These are things that I may want to read. I may be interested in some of these articles that Dell wants me to have a look at, but I don't have time to look at them at the moment, and I don't really need them clogging up my inbox. I'll get to them when I get a chance, or maybe I won't. So these things like newsletters, partner newsletters, things like that, they get moved into the other box and get moved out of your way. Eventually you come to terms with that and you realize that's pretty helpful. Thank you, focused inbox. However, I know there's a number of people out there who do not like the evilness that is the focused inbox. So if you click on this view button again, right up here at the top, there's a little inbox thing called the show focused inbox. If it's turned on already, this is checked, and that's why it's working. If you check that box, it will turn it back off again, and all your mail will be blended back in together. Very simple. You just get your all and you get your unread, just like a traditional Outlook setup. Now, if you wish to turn it back on again, you just hit that button again and you go right back to focused and to other. Now, the focused inbox is also available on the Outlook mobile product, and I use it there as well. So if it's accidentally turned on for you there, turning it off is a little different, but we can always help you if need be to get that turned off on your phone, or if it's not on, help you to get it turned on. Let's wrap up.
All right, well, we've come to the end of the webinar. On behalf of everyone here at OptiStar Technology Consultants, I'd like to thank all of you for your time today, and I hope that I was able to bring you a little new information that can make your workday just a little easier. If you'd like to talk to OptiStar's consultants about how to make your IT run better, give us a call at 888-782-7003, or you can email us using these new email skills at ask@optistartech.com. Now, I don't have any time right now. I've reached the end of my time, so I'm not going to be able to take any direct questions. But if you do have any questions about any of the things that we've talked about here today, feel free to drop us a line at ask@optistartech.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. In the meantime, everyone, stay safe. Have a good rest of your day.